What's up guys, how are you? This is Andrew with ADS here to bring you the very best in marketing and branding tips, as well as business tips for those of you who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and personal branders. Welcome, thanks so much for being here, and I have so much to share with you after my very first completely virtual mini conference is over. OMG, there is so much to cover. I have at least 20 top tips to share with you at a minimum, and that is only high level. In some future videos, probably the next 2 videos, we'll also go over details on Zoom breakout rooms, very important and critical, and also Whova. If you choose to use the conference app Whova, which I will link to in the description below, we'll also do a video about that. So look out for those next 2 videos after this one. But today we're going high level. If you're planning a virtual mini conference, i.e. not just a webinar, but a series of online meetings for your attendees, this is the video for you. Top 20 tips coming right now. The first #1 thing I want you to think about is, what do people get out of getting this content live as opposed to just Googling around all the different topics on YouTube and finding existing content that already is out there? What will participants get out of this live virtual event that they can't get already elsewhere? This is the major selling point that is the stickler for the difference between your traditional in-person events and now this COVID world that we're living in now, where everything's virtual. We really got to justify what people are getting in this live experience that they can't get elsewhere. Okay, so top of the line, #1, think about that. What makes it worth their coming to live? And that is the selling point you must put out there at all times. So that's not even point #1 yet. That's just a high level overarching thing before you even get started going down this rabbit hole of starting a virtual conference. Think about that and then proceed to #1. Okay, so tip #1 is to create a backstage area with whatever platforms you're using. We use a combination of Zoom and Whova, but whatever platforms you're using, try to create a backstage area where your speakers, room hosts, which is what we call them, those are the people who are hosting the room. They are introducing the speaker, they're introducing the moderator in the room, they're helping keep people on time. Highly recommend room host. They're making sure that the room is being recorded, all those good things. Those important people, speakers, panelists, moderators, everyone running the event in that room has to be in there before everyone else does. So if you can create a backstage area where they can exist and get situated before everybody starts coming in, that's ideal. So whatever platform you are on, think about that backstage area and building in enough time for people to get in that area first, okay? So you wanna make sure that that exists. Create it. Also, yes, I am showing off this mural, which took me forever to get, and I finally got it. I'm so excited. Ah. You gotta love your home office. I mean, this thing makes me happy. Okay, so tip #2. Tip #2, bios and speaker contact info. Bios and speaker contact info. Very important to have together for your room hosts, for your event. I put them all in a Dropbox for my people, and also even included it at the very bottom of our website page. I kind of put it on a bottom link that I told them exists there. So they had it on a Dropbox, they had it over email, they had it on the bottom link of our website, multiple places where they could access it just for the room host, so that they had bios readily available and speaker contact info readily available, so that when it's time for them to introduce their person, they're ready to go. They've got everything they need. They could read it beforehand, they could print it out beforehand, practice reading it, all that good stuff. It needs to be available, accessible to them where they can get to it. So definitely create a little folder box area and mention it several times live in person. Don't just read it. Don't just have them read it over email, but also tell them on your own Zoom call, conference call, however you do it, Tell them repeatedly where that stuff is so they know exactly what their duties are in that room and where to find the info that they need. Number 3, speaker meetings and panelist meetings. So if you're having workshops and panels, which I would assume that you would, as most conferences do, you are going to want to have meetings with them beforehand. So don't just keep everything over email. Definitely have some FaceTime with people so that they can ask questions, so that you can explain to them your expectations, so that they know what they need to do in order to make this a successful thing. And that they can also feel the weight of their responsibility for this event, because their content is critical and it's important that they take this seriously, because I cannot tell you how many times I've seen speakers at conferences furiously working up to the 11th hour, working on their presentations just before they go into the room. I mean, they flew in, they're tweaking their presentation, minutes before they go in the door. You want people thinking about their content way ahead of time. So we had about a month in advance a speaker workshop where we brought in a speaker trainer where she could talk to our speakers and our panelists about the value they bring to that day, and making sure that they understand things like looking at the camera and not yourself, and how that's so important, hard to do but important, and how you should use this space, this rectangle of a box that we're in for virtual events, and how that's so critical, important, and why that matters, because this is the experience that people get, this rectangle of a box. That's all they've got. So how do you maximize it and use it to your advantage? And then also, how do you engage participants so that they feel like a participant and not just a viewer? Again, what do people get live out of this event that they don't get just by watching a YouTube video like this? They could press play on demand at any time. What do they get out of it live? And part of that is that interaction that they can't get otherwise. So that is a key critical point that you want to push home, is the speaker and panelists and moderators' role in making this an awesome day for the participants. An awesome day, not just a regular day, not just another webinar. This is important. And so doing a speaker meetup where you can have someone come in and speak to these critical areas that matter to you the most in a timely fashion. You don't want to run your speakers away with too much, but I know that it was very much appreciated by the speakers, panelists we had at our event. And so I'm passing that along to you because I think that's going to be great for your event. Have a speaker meetup and also have a panelist meetup. So panelists need an opportunity. It's different from a workshop, right? They need an opportunity to meet each other. They need a chance to say hi, to figure out their rapport, and also get a chance to discuss questions beforehand, panel questions, panel topics, because what you want is an opportunity for every panelist to shine with their expertise and for the moderator to shine, but not only just shine themselves and add their own expertise into the space, but they also need to connect that with how that brings value to your audience. So not just them shining, but really considering the audience that's going to be there and how they can add value to the people who are going to be in that room. So keeping those things in mind, that's why a panel meetup separate from the speaker workshop is really critical, so that they can develop that rapport and discuss those things and really put some thought towards, how do I bring value to the day as a panelist, and how do I bring value to the people who are watching this? Point number 4, people don't read. People don't read. You will have some blessed souls who will actually read your stuff, and that is wonderful, and that is what we want to happen. But there will just be people who are too busy. They don't have time. They see your stuff coming through, but they never open it. They never look at it. They just know this is on their calendar, and they're going to imagine if someone didn't read a thing, did not pay attention to anything that you put out there. They bought their ticket 3 months ago. It's on their calendar. They're going to it, but they didn't open anything up until the day of. They get an email the day of. It says, go here. They went there. That's all they know. If that's all they know, you have to be prepared in your speeches you give in the morning and your notes that you give throughout the day, your housekeeping items, to help educate people about your conference live. So you're going to have to be able to tell them where to go, what to do very easily, very succinctly. Hey, refer back to that email that you got this morning. There's some easy links in there where you can get to these backup Zoom links and whatever. Those kinds of instructions that you give live are really, really critical to a user's experience. And, ideally, in a perfect world, people would have read every single workshop description you have and read all the bios, and they've already mapped out their day, and they know exactly where they want to go and exactly what they want to do. But a lot of times that is not the case. It's not the case. They have not read anything that you put out there. So just be prepared that that is likely going to be the case, and you're just going to have people to help, which, a sub point to this point is help desks. Set up a little help desk if you can. I had 2 of my teammates on as help desk people. We made a little graphic about them with their faces. We included their cell phone numbers that people could call directly that day. And we made that available in the day of email. So if people had problems, technical issues they couldn't fix themselves, these were our most tech savvy, most knowledgeable people about the products we were using and the day itself and what to do to troubleshoot. So somebody they had someone they could reach out to and pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I really need help with this, because they're trying to get into a workshop and they can't figure out how to get in there. That stuff happens. So it helps. It just gives peace of mind, and it actually does help in the moment to have a little help desk available for the people who don't read, or again, just have tech problems, because tech problems will happen, period. We're using tech. It happens. It just does. Okay, so point number 5 is to have backups to your backups, period. To have backups to everything as much as you can, and help your team understand that, talk through it. If this happens, we're going to do this. If the Wi-Fi goes down on our main speaker, we're going to do this. If we can't hear audio for some reason, our protocol is this. Talking through that so as many people on your team understand what to happen should this happen, especially live. That really, really helps to talk through that and make sure everyone's on the same page. Also, to have a backup MC, because if you are the MC or you designated someone as the MC and your audio goes out or their audio goes out, and we can't hear you, or their Wi-Fi turns out bad for a moment, somebody needs to be in place to pick up that script and go with it, which is point number 6. Have a script. Definitely have a script. It doesn't have to be written out in paragraphs to the T, but it needs to be checkbox like. This needs to be said during these times. In the opening session, we need to make sure we mention XYZ sponsors. We need to make sure we do housekeeping items on downloading the conference app and where to find the email with all the backup Zoom links and blah, 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 blah. All these things that you need to mention needs to be in that script, and it needs to be timed out so it makes sense, so that you're not putting too much in there, so that you're not cramping your keynote speaker, for example. You don't want to take up and eat into their time. So what you say has to make sense for the space that you have when you are speaking. But having backups and having a script that is shared amongst your team, at least your close team, for people who can pick that up if they need to, is super helpful. And I thought that was really great. Definitely gonna do that again because I think it helps a lot just for multiple people to have it who are close, tight, and have the capability to pick that up when they need to. Number 7, golden nugget time. Golden nugget time. So this is feedback time with people. This is people's opportunity to share their opinion, to share something they learned that they're going to incorporate in their own business or their own efforts, whatever it is that you have going on. It's feedback time. It's time for them to share their thoughts, their opinions, the stuff that they thought were aha moments for them. Why is this important? Because in order for people to feel like they got something out of the event that they could not get on demand anywhere else, on a blog, on YouTube, on whatever, in order to people feel like it was worth that money that you asked them to pay to come to this event, you're going to need to involve them. They're going to people want to feel special. They want to feel noticed. They want to feel acknowledged. They want to know that you know that they're there. They want to know that their thought and opinion matters. So ask them, engage them in the chat, have someone there in the chat. You're going to also want to just make sure that you are calling upon people, giving opportunities for people to share is really, really important. I cannot stress that enough. Give people opportunities to share their golden nuggets and opinions and thoughts. Number 8, prizes. Prizes. Yes, people love prizes. I mean, we love them in real life. We love it virtual. So offer multiple opportunities for prizes. Build that in the day. I don't even care if it's something as simple as a speaker book or a $5 Starbucks gift card. People love prizes. So build in social media prizes, build in door prizes. At the end of the day, we did door prizes and we told people, there would be door prizes at the end of the day. We kept reiterating that so that people showed up at our last session for that. And we just asked questions like, tell us something you learned in the noonday session. First person to say in the chat wins a prize. Or we said something like, tell us the purpose of writing, which was our opening keynote session. It's the first thing he said, and he told everybody to write it down. That was a note I know several people got. So we asked that question, and that was one of the prize questions. Social media, you're looking for your key engagers, people who won on certain different platforms. You can do it overall for the hashtag, whoever was the most active. We gave out prizes on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, for social media, but you do it how you like, but do include prizes. Number 9, I was very surprised to see that people actually took advantage of the community board area in the Whova app. Again, we're going to do a video all about how to use Whova if you're interested in that in the conference app, and a link to that is below that you can also see. You can go to bit.ly/ADS Whova, and that will take you to the Whova app if you're interested in that for your own event. But I was very glad to see that people were really curious about using that community board area, which is really cool. We just told them about it really almost one time, and people went in there themselves and started up conversations about their unique expert topic areas or things they had questions about, and it was awesome. So absolutely involve people in a community board area. And if you don't have an app like Whova, you can easily incorporate your private Facebook group. Encourage people to start up conversations there before the conference starts, during the conference, after the conference. Well, during the conference, you want them chatting, but after the conference, before and after, have them in those rooms chatting it up. Why? Because it creates a sense of community, and people love that. And it gives, yet again, another opportunity to be seen and noticed and heard. Do it. So there's a lady named Robin who wrote a book called Facilitating Virtual Events. I highly, highly recommend that you get it. Get it on Kindle. It's very inexpensive. Get that book. I read about 40% of it before I started this event, and I thought it was phenomenal, amazing, super helpful, very tactical. This lady knows her stuff, and she even was so kind as to, I think I tweeted about her book because I was so excited to have found it, and I was already reading like page 1, Golden Nuggets, and I shared it out on Twitter, tagged her because I saw she was on Twitter, and amazingly she responded and even DM'd me a very awesome nugget that I used for my virtual event, and I'm going to share it with you, which is, actually it was 2 things she said that I thought were great. One, refer to people as participants, not attendees. Again, leading to the idea that we want people to participate in the day, not just sit there and watch, because no one wants to sit there silently, unnoticed, watching a live event for 8 hours in the day or 5 hours, however long your thing is, and no one ever noticed and no one ever care and no one ever talked to them. I mean, no one wants that. So participants, let them know ahead of time up front, we want you participating, engaging in the day. We're excited to have you to be a part of this day, an integral part of the day. Talk to them like that, because we want to make sure they know your presence is valued and needed. It is an important part of making this event more than it could be than just on-demand content, right? Another awesome note that Robin gave me was to highlight participants. Highlight them ahead of time on your social media. So we definitely did that. We had I can't even remember how many highlights we did, but it had to be at least 8 to 10 people that we highlighted. And they were everyone from VIPers to general ticket holders. And we included their picture. It was all a similar look and feel. And we highlighted we said their name, we highlighted where they were from. We did a short 2 to 3 sentence blip about them. We had them send in a short little 2 to 3 sentence bio about themselves and their business, and a link. They could choose a link, not 50 links, that they wanted us to include in their highlight. And it was great exposure for them to our audience, which was awesome. And another thing that Robin mentioned is that it made them feel valued, and it also let other ticket holders know, or future ticket holders know, hey, if you buy a ticket to this event, you might get highlighted and spotlighted. Cool, that's exposure for you. So I thought that was great. It worked out well. People appreciated that, I believe, and it makes people feel special again. So do it. Number 13. Stairstep pricing. Stairstep pricing. Really, really helpful. We did our first event last year. That was an all in-person event, of course, before COVID. And we saw the typical hockey shaped curve, L-shaped curve, where, ticket prices crawl, and then they spike up like the week of and day of the event, right? With stairstep pricing, which we tried to implement in our first year, and we just ran out of time because we were doing it in too short of a time. But this year we had time, and we did stair-step pricing about every 2 weeks. We just incrementally increased it. People don't even know. We're not even telling them how much we're increasing it by. It was like $5, but it doesn't matter. It's the psychology behind it, that you are stair-stepping that pricing, and people know a price is going up. So if they know this price, better get your tickets, because that price is going up at midnight. They know that, they see that. You're gonna get a couple of ticket sales before midnight. You just are. It's just how it's gonna work. And so instead of waiting for money to roll in and it's giving you a little heart attack, and then you get spikes up at the day of, stair step it, and you'll see a nice progression like this, and then a little hockey stick at the end, which is much better. It makes you feel better as an organizer to know that that money is rolling in. Very, very critical, because we think that a virtual event, it costs nothing. It's virtual. You don't have a venue fee. You're not feeding people. What cost could you possibly have? Well, if you are really trying to have an actual mini conference, there are many costs that you can potentially have, which include, and this is a side note, this is even in the thing, I'm just putting this in here as a side note about budget. If you are using a conference platform like Whova, for us, that was at least $1,500 for a conference less than 500 people. And then there's all these add-ons that can easily increase that to $2,500. So there's one thing, if you use a conference platform, you're going to have that cost. The other thing is that if you do swag boxes, which we'll talk about later, all those promo items that you're going to include, which we did for our VIPers, t-shirts, mugs, blah, 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 all those kinds of things you might put in there, that costs. What else costs? Shipping, those boxes costs. You'll have to include that. Speaker fees. You might have speaker fees depending on the level of speakers that you're bringing in. You may have to pay them. There's all kinds of costs associated even with a virtual event. So don't think that just because it's virtual that it's definitely going to be free. You will have costs of some sort. Lest you don't buy anyone any kind of thank you gifts whatsoever and you treat it just like a webinar, you will have some costs. So if it's a mini conference, you will. And that's important to know. And this is why stair-step pricing is so helpful. Number 14, get your speakers their day of links. So if you have multiple events going on at different times, sometimes, again, speakers don't read just like your participants don't read. So you're gonna wanna make it easy for them. Send them a dedicated email that says, here is your link for tomorrow. Here is your link for today. Here is your link to join the conference later this week, your direct link. Remind them of the time they're supposed to come on. Give them any other extra materials. You're going to want to spoon feed this several times because, again, people lose stuff. They don't read. They can't find things, so you're gonna have to give it to them multiple times and in multiple ways, okay? But if you give them a dedicated link that says, here's where you're supposed to join the day of, that's super helpful. So we did that for some speakers, and I'm definitely making that a note to do that for all of our speakers next time, because I think it just helps make things very clear and as stress-free as possible. So just do it. This is the theme of today, just do it. Y'all like my hair, by the way? I cut this myself yesterday. I followed this guy's YouTube video about cutting your own hair, and I totally did it myself. Okay, side note. Number 15. Assign people to VIP care. If you have a VIP level ticket, assign someone to be responsible for their care the day of, prior to communications, one-on-one communications if needed for those people. For us, our VIPers got a swag box, so we needed an address. And though we had communications that said, hey, VIPers, send us your address, you know, and it gave them a link to share their address, their t-shirt size, blah, 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 and all these things, people, again, don't read. So you need somebody to physically follow up with them. It super helps to have someone as a point for that specific group of your event and say, hey, make sure these people get communicated with, call them, email them, hit them up, because at the end of the day, they cannot say that we didn't try to get a hold of them, right? So if we do all that and they still don't respond, that's on them. But at least we gave them multiple opportunities to respond. So assign a point person in addition to your other communications that you have to track down the information that you need to make sure that your VIPers have a great experience. So I thought that was really good that we did that this year. Definitely going to do it again. Assign a point for these special groups that you have. You can even have a point for speakers, a point for panelists, a point for, we had a point for our all access ticket holders too. We had a level called all access. So we had a point for that as well, just to make sure that they got communications about meeting up with their consultants and those kinds of things. So it helps to have a team that you can break down these assignments to. Definitely. And I'm not just saying that. Get a team. Do it. Number 16, we did not do this time, but I'm making a note of it and I'm sharing it with you so that you do it in your event. Assign someone to the chat. So if you are the MC or whoever you designate to be the MC, is not necessarily going to have the time to also consider the chat. You can see it, but you're going to be busy also moving along the program. So you're not always going to be able to see, especially if it's a very active chat, all the stuff coming up in the chat. And especially when you have breakout rooms and people start putting there, send me to this room, send me to that room. You know, if you have that situation going on, it almost becomes impossible to read that chat. So what you're going to have to do is assign some people, you know, say you are responsible for the chat, talk with people, engage with them, make sure they're talking in there, answer their questions, all those kinds of things. So it helps to have point people for that. We will be doing that next time and you should do it for yours. Number 17, we said this before, but I cannot reiterate it enough. Look in the camera, not at yourself, the camera. Look there. Why? Because psychologically, people want to know that you are looking them in the eye. And what that means for virtual is you are looking in that camera. That is, every participant's eye is in that camera. Every person who comes to your event is in that camera. So not only do you, if you're the MC or whoever you designate to be your MC, need to be looking in that camera talking to people, but your keynotes need to do it. Your panelists need to do it. Your speakers need to do it. Your room hosts need to do it. They need to be looking there and not here at themselves or there down at the screen, or even worse, off to the side to another screen look in the camera. Period. Do it. Number 18, have your survey ready. Have your survey ready. Have that ready so that when your event is over, you can be sending out your survey. If you paid for that feature in Whova, which we did not do that this time because we were just gonna save that cost and do our surveys ourselves, but you do have the capability to do immediate post surveys after every event, which is kind of cool. So you can do that through whatever platform you choose if you're doing a platform to host your event, Or you can just simply be ready to send it out directly after your event. Make sure people have it so they can give you that feedback, as painful as it might be, because virtual does come with a lot of technical problems. It just does. But you are going to you need that feedback to improve, but also for ROI purposes, any data you can get is helpful for your sponsors, period. So get that survey data, have it ready, be ready to deploy it as soon as your event is over. Number 19, swag boxes. Oh yes, yes. I had to do that this year, and I love, love, love these swag boxes. I'm going to link to where I got these from below, and also you can see it here. This is where we got the swag boxes from, and they're super awesome. I wanted something that was like crafty, but also clearly branded. And so it made people who got it feel special. So on the top, it said like VIP, special delivery, something like that. And then it had some quotes on the inside, which is super cool. And then we also included a signed copy of the Noonday Keynotes book. So we got those, that one in the box. They got a t-shirt. So we had another t-shirt size t-shirt that said like the theme of our conference, and it had the logo on the back. They got a mug that said Unapologetically Ambitious, our theme, on the front, and then the logo on the back. They got a mug, and then they got some sponsored goodies. So T-Mobile was one of our sponsors. They got them a really cool, like phone bank thing, which was awesome, and some other little cool grab bag things. Our gallery, we had like a virtual art gallery, and they had a little swag thing in there. So all the little extras that we could put in there. Remember that weight matters in shipping. So if you have sponsors giving you stuff to put in these boxes, always remind them that it should be as light as possible. Send us light, small things, nothing too heavy, nothing crazy, unless you are sending a big box. But if you're sending a nice small box, like ours could fit on this clipboard, and then it was probably 4 inches or so up. Is that 4 inches? Yeah, probably. And, so not too huge. You can only fit so much in a box. Just remember that. So keep it light, keep it small, but keep it fun, make them feel special. Because if these are for your VIPers or your top level tickets, or however you're handling that, you want them to feel special when they open that box, and not like this is a bunch of crap they can just throw in the garbage. Okay, so swag boxes, budget for it, make sure it all fits. Plan for it ahead of time, all that good stuff. Make sure you use a lot of coordination with those if you're including your sponsor stuff. But even if you're not, the stuff that you order for it, your programs, we had printed programs in there, all those things have to be coordinated ahead of time. So you need to make sure those things happen a month in advance at least, so that you're not waiting on items to come in last minute. Because ideally you want people to have their box before they open, and come to their event. You want them to have it so that they can wear their shirt and feel cool and special and all that good stuff, okay? Number 20, and then I have a bonus. Number 20 is speaker books. So if you have speakers who have books that you are incorporating in your event, which we did incorporate a book from our Noonday Keynote. We got 100 of her books for our VIPers. Signed copy. She did a signed book plate inside all of them. Just know that you're gonna have to plan for in advance how much those are gonna cost. Put that in your budget. When they can arrive, all these shipping logistics, make sure you think about those things, and also include the dimensions of that in the planning of your box. Because if you have, for example, a mug, like our box is at least 4 inches tall, and we have a mug which could easily fit in there more than comfortably with bubble wrap around it by itself. If you add a box onto that, then it becomes a little tighter of a situation to handle. So, that was lesson learned. Be thoughtful about what's going to need to go in that box, how it's going to be packed so it doesn't arrive broken, and all those things. Very, very important. Speaker books though, if you're gonna have speaker books, I think it's fun. Just make sure you plan accordingly so you don't get stuck with a bunch of books that you paid for. And then you're gonna have to sell them later. But if you do have extra books, you can sell them later, through your site or whatever, and recoup some of those costs. So, just be prepared to have that going on in your digital store. If you craft and create a digital store, which by the way, we did do that, and I'm going to share with you here which store we used for our store. And I'll also link that below so that you can have that. Cost us nothing to set that store up. Very cool. It just makes you look professional. Whether anyone ever uses it or not, you don't have to count it as part of your revenue. It's just the idea that the swag is there and available. So the people who didn't get VIP tickets, but they're a little jealous and like, I wanted something, they could just click and buy it themselves. The end. So it makes you look good. It doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. Awesome. Awesome. Do it. And the bonus, very quickly, the bonus here is photos. So I promise you, this is a niche market waiting to happen, but somebody needs to become a Zoom photographer. And what I mean by Zoom photographer is you're there live capturing photos, you know, which means screenshotting throughout the event, trying to capture people in their cool moments. So not the moments where they look bored, but they're actually listening, but their face looks bored. You know, they're like staring like this into the camera, or they're looking down, or they have their face in their hands like, you know, like that's not the faces that we want. We want the high-fiving faces, you know, virtual high five. We want the people who are dancing in their chairs. We want people with smiles. We want to see teeth, and we want all those pictures that convey a great time, that people were happy to be there and that they enjoyed themselves. So absolutely, you need to capture those moments, but that's a lot of footage to look through. So if you can designate someone to do that, that'll be awesome. Or if you could have someone who could be the Zoom photographer and go through the footage afterwards and capture those screenshot moments, that would be great. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of how we package that and put it in an album on Facebook later, because I mean, I don't know about you, but I can only see so many Zoom screenshots before I barf, you know, like we're all a bit zoomed out. So how do you mix up and be different? This is our solution that we came up with for this event. And you can be creative and come up with your own solutions of how you can come up with these screenshots. But just know it works best. I mean, for me, I thought it worked best to use it. Put your recordings, your Zoom recordings, your video recordings, wherever you get them from, into a video editing system like Premiere Pro, which is what I use to edit all videos. And I just threw the videos in there. And what's great about it is you can slide it to a particular moment and even backspace it, you know, until you get the right moment where you see that smile that you want or that dancing moment that you want to capture. And in Premiere Pro, you can save that screen high res, which is way better than trying to screenshot on your desktop, because it's not always ends up being high res. Or if you, even worse, if you're looking in the Zoom recording and trying to pause it, that's an even smaller screen. You know, it can only get so big before it starts looking really pixelated and bad. So you want the highest res shots you can get from these videos. Put it in something like Premiere Pro where you can save those screenshots high res, and then you can crop down to an individual and make your own collages, you know, so you don't have to include all these black screens with names on them. You don't have to include that. It looks boring and no one wants to see it. Include all the high energy stuff that looks awesome, you know, so you can create. You don't have to feel stuck and boxed in, literally boxed into just a Zoom screen of whatever happens to be on there, and only one or two people look fantastic and everyone else is a black screen or not doing something fantastic. So you can crop that individual and make a cool collage that looks like, dang, that did look like fun. Oh, I missed out. I should have went to it. Okay, so the photos are important after every event. And that's my tip for how do you do photos from a virtual event. Do it like that. Be creative. Have fun with it. And then incentivize people to put those photos on social media or on your app so that you can get the best of everything that's available that day and use it to wrap up your event with a nice pretty bow with your Facebook album and call it a day. Ooh, it's over. It's over. Oh yeah, our DJ was awesome, by the way. DJ was awesome. He was awesome. Get a DJ. definitely test them out beforehand. That's another bonus tip. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I will just keep talking to you about tips that we learned. But what questions, comments, leave them in the comments below. Questions, ideas, comments, stuff you're thinking about, you want to brainstorm about for your own virtual event, conference, summit, whatever you are doing. Put that in the comments below. I want to hear from you. And otherwise, I hope this was helpful for you. I'm going to leave lots and lots of links for you in the description, so be sure to check that out. And otherwise, look out for the videos coming up next, all about Zoom breakout rooms and the Whova app. If you're going to be using that for your own events, I will break that down, especially breakout rooms. Very, very critical, important things to know right now in 2020 or early 2021. Whenever you see this, you definitely want to check that out, because up until Zoom updates their API and all that, there's some important things to know with Zoom breakout rooms, period, and also how that interacts with a platform like Whova. All right. Thank you so much. I'm Andrea with the ADS Agency, as always, here to bring you the very best in marketing and branding tips, as well as business tips for those of you who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and personal branders. Follow us at the ADS Agency. That's THEADS, like ads, like advertising, agency, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Subscribe here. Make sure you subscribe. Click the little bell when it pops up. That's a notifications bell. If you do not do that, you will never see me again. True story. Make sure you do it, okay? And we also have a podcast, so definitely check that out on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, all those wonderful places. And thank you so much for being here, cuties. I'll see you next time. Cheers.